Alright, lads, welcome back to episode number 4 or number 3, depends on whichever way you look at it. In this episode, we are recording a little bit later due to how late the Sunday evening game was from Arsenal. We did do a match reaction on that already, where me, Kyle, and Paul gave their thoughts on the game. If you do want to go and check that one out, that one is already online on our channels, both on YouTube and on Spotify. But in this episode, me and Kyle, who I am joined with, how are you doing, Kyle?
Yeah, all good. It's the first Magpie, like proper Magpie 24/7 podcast I've done for about 3 years now because myself and Paul had the old version. This is the new, improved, revamped version. So looking forward to being a part of this and many more episodes. So yeah, good to finally be on properly.
Fantastic. That's good to hear, mate. And in today's episode, we are going to go over every single Champions League fixture that we have drawn in this year's competition. We obviously have already faced off against Barcelona. Maybe a quick little moment to hear your thoughts on that game, Kyle?
Yeah, the Barcelona game was a bit of an interesting one, wasn't it? I think in terms of the quality Barcelona have brought in early this season, we've already played Arsenal and Liverpool in the league at home, and obviously playing Barcelona as well. It's just a complete different class. Like that Barcelona team in possession is the best I've ever seen at St James's Park by a considerable margin, and like. I think Anthony Gordon summed it up best in his press conference. Well, not in the press conference, but in his interview after the game, just saying that we haven't played anything like that.
Mm-hmm.
Like we have played your Man Cities and your tough teams in the division, but we haven't played a team like that. They were just outstanding in every single way. And if Newcastle don't perform a miracle and don't go on to win it, Barcelona's probably the team I'd like to see go on to win it because
Mm-hmm.
everything about that football team that came to St James's Park was just first class. I mean, Petri and De Jong, what a
Yeah.
dream midfield combination that is. And the worst thing is, Barcelona fans will look at that and be like, that isn't the best we've seen in the last 10 years because they've
Mm-hmm.
had Xavi and Iniesta as well.
Yeah.
So, yeah, what an incredible team. And just to see that in person, like, although like fully pledged to Newcastle United,
Mm-hmm.
like just as from a footballing perspective, it was just like, wow, what
Yeah.
a team this is.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and there's nothing wrong with doing that, watching a game and kind of for the love of the game rather than the love of your club, because obviously, I mean, we were in the game for a long spell. I
Yeah,
thought the first half we created a lot of chances, probably should have put one or two away. But you're very right to mention the two people in midfield. Both Pedri and Frankie de Jong had an absolute blinder of a game,
yeah, they
especially
did.
when we got one back. The way they just kept possession throughout, not got in any sort of danger. That was a whole new level of world class we indeed haven't seen before.
Yeah,
But that was our first game, and unfortunately, we did lose that one. But I think if you were to ask any Geordie at the start of this campaign, if one or two games would be lost, the Barcelona game would absolutely be one of them. This next game, however, we are playing tomorrow is against a Belgian side, Union Saint-Gillois. Now, I am from Belgium personally, so I know a little bit more about them. Maybe I'm interesting to know, what do you know about them, Kyle?
I'm not gonna lie, I don't know much about this team at all. Obviously when we got drawn against them, I seen they've got a Newcastle fan at centre back and stuff like that. But
Mm-hmm.
in terms of just generally knowing about this football club, I don't know a great deal to be honest with you. Like, so as much as I'm sure the audience listening as well, I'm sure it'll be an education from yourself to see what this team's about
Mm-hmm.
and stuff like that. Because I know the Belgian league can be quite competitive and it
Yeah.
can roll up a couple of surprises every now and then. I think this team being in the Champions League is one of the many in the past few years in the Belgian league. So
Mm-hmm.
it'll be a different challenge for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, you're right. I think the level of the Belgian league has risen quite considerably over the last couple of seasons. Last season, Club Brugge obviously scalped Atalanta in the Champions League, so that was a big result for them. And this season is the first time in a very long time they have two teams in the Champions League. But Union is one of the four debutants of this season. So they haven't actually played Champions League football before for this year. But they are a very, very interesting club. On the one hand, and I do implore everyone to go and have a look at the video Paul has just released on YouTube, where he has a little preview ahead of the game. I have a 5-minute spell in there where I give a little history lesson on Union. But in a nutshell, they were a very big team before the Second World War in Belgium. Afterwards, due to some financial mismanagement, they fell out of the top 2 and even 3 divisions, falling all the way to the 4th tier of Belgian football, which is amateur football in Belgium. But they have since been taken over and taken over again. And the new owners, who were owners since they were in the 2nd tier in Belgium, are the same owners of Brighton. So they do have the data-driven model down to a T. Since they have been promoted to the Belgian League in 2020, they have competed for the league title in every season, which, I mean, nobody expected that when they returned, but we've come to expect it now. And every single summer, they sell a striker for at least 20 million. The likes of Undaf have come through, Boniface, who you might know, Amoura at Wolfsburg. This summer, they have sold Ivanovic to Benfica, who is a different opponent we will face. So their data-driven approach has worked wonders for them. The only reason they haven't played Champions League football sooner and won the league title sooner, because they won their first in 90 years last season, but they're 12th overall, is mostly down to the playoff system in Belgium. At the end of the competition, the season gets, or the league table gets divided into the top 6 who play the Champions playoffs, the 6 underneath who play European playoffs, and then the 4 last teams who play relegation playoffs. And when those playoffs start, you only face the teams home and away who are in your group, and every single club's points are halved, meaning whatever advantage you have built up over the season is mostly lost. And that's where Union have choked every single season apart from last year. But last year, they actually broke the record, both for the least amount of goals conceded in the playoffs and the most amount of points gathered in the playoffs. So they absolutely deserve to win the league title last year. That was that is kind of the picture of Union as a club. If we are talking about the team, they will be putting out on tomorrow night's game, or in general, it is a 5 at the back system, but their wingbacks are also their wingers, because they do like to play with 2 up top. The wingbacks do possess like 6 lungs. They're absolutely rapid and they run the entire game long. But this physical aspect is something you can find throughout this entire Union team, and is something we are going to have to be prepared for. Because when we would go behind by some surprise goal, I think it's going to be really, really hard to pull back any sort of result if they get something from this. That's the really hard part with Union. They are really defensively rigid. But where I do think we can win this game is in midfield, because they have lost their main number 6 at the end of the window to Nice, Charles van Houten. And they haven't really replaced him. I mean, they have brought in some midfielders, but they are a little light, in my opinion. I don't think they possess the physicality and the defensive nous to compete in that midfield battle with the likes of Bruno, Tonali, Joelinton. So I think that's exactly where we're going to have to win this game.
Yeah, I think obviously, like you say, it's I was unaware of the number 6 going to Nice, but as I've found in research with the teams I've looked at, there is a chance to exploit players that have went missing, and when midfield does really plug a hole with that. So I think there is a real opportunity to really pick up some points tomorrow. I know Union are unbeaten in the last 10. They surprisingly won their first game at PSV Eindhoven as well, which are a very good side, and surprised Liverpool last year with a win against them. So we're up against like a really good side, I think, and not one where I think it's a guaranteed 3 points, which many may assume, because it's a club that are, as you say, a debutant in the Champions League, and as well as that, it'll be their first home game as well. I know it's at Anderlecht Stadium when it does take place tomorrow, but I think the first kind of Champions League game, it'll be a bigger deal for them as
They're gonna
many
be up
other
for it.
games probably will be. So there will be a bit of they're going to be up for it, and like you say, it's going to be on the first 10, 20 minutes where we can't concede that first goal because if we do, it is going to be a difficult night. But
Mhm.
I think our midfield is good enough to go up against most in this competition. Obviously, probably borrow Barcelona's, but yeah, I think there's a real chance for it to get the win, but we also need to make sure we're on our best kind of form to make sure we get
Yeah.
that and get points on the board. Because I also think if we don't win this game, it puts a lot of pressure on the next game in the Champions
Mhm.
League afterwards because then we'll be trying to catch up kind of thing. So yeah, I think this is quite a big game, and hopefully we can get off to a start and get obviously some points on the board in this group.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think we would also have to be on the lookout for their strikers because they have retained their top scorer of last season, which is something they haven't really done before, which is Promise David, a Canadian striker who I would kind of compare him to Jean-Philippe Mateta in the Premier League. His playing style sort of resembles him, but he has a striker next to him, which is Raul Floric. That striker has been signed this summer, so he's the next one on the conveyor belt of Union strikers. And he's already started the season really, really well, but the goals have dried up as of late. So
Yeah.
it's going to be tough to keep those two quiet because both of them are really physical players who like to give defenders a lot of trouble. But I do think if there's one defense that can keep them quiet, it's ours, and we've seen that this season. All right, so that is Union done. In game week 3, we are facing Benfica, but given the fact that that is also a team that I have previewed, I suggest we skip ahead a little further to game week 4, where we face Athletic Bilbao, and I believe you have previewed them.
Yeah, so in terms of Athletic Bilbao, I mean they're a team I watched a little bit last season when they took on Man United in the Europa League semi-final, and watching them from that, there is a little bit of confidence from me for this one because Man United even with the manager that they've got in the system that they play, where it's a bit of a mess, like for me, I think there's an opportunity there for it to really give these a go and get 3 points against them. There is a soft spot for Bilbao because it came up to St James's Park for a friendly a few years ago, and the fans are really good, really nice. And there is a family kind of thing around the club, similar to the way it is with Newcastle as well, where we kind of look after our own. They go one step further though, and all the players are from the Basque region,
Yeah.
and stuff like that as well. So for them to compete at the highest possible possible levels with basically academy graduates throughout the entire squad is nothing short of amazing, to be fair. And
Mhm.
even then they've managed to maintain that through a very long time. I remember them, I think what 2014, 2015, they win the Europa League final, and they had like Akia Muniain and players like that really prominent within the team. Um, but the confidence in terms of the general play is there because I think if Man United can put 7 past them in 2 games, I'd put a lot of confidence in our stadium being a hard place to go and just ensuring we can get um and get a couple of goals and really put them to the sword. We did beat them in pre-season a few years back. I think we beat them 2-0. So I think there is a real opportunity here to obviously with the Union game and then Benfica and Bilbao, both games being at home after Union. So there's a real opportunity there for what to get 7 to 9 points and then be quite established within that Champions League group. So I think these are quite important weeks within the Champions League group. Um, at the minute, Bilbao were 10th in La Liga, so they haven't had like an amazing start. They haven't set the world alight kind of thing. So we can really take advantage of that. In my research, there is a couple of players that I noticed that are really good. Obviously, Nico Williams has been linked with Barcelona for quite a few years now. Did sign a new contract, so I think those rumours aren't going to be as big in the news over in Spain for the foreseeable future. But I think those players speak for themselves. Like they're very good players. Both Williams brothers, that is, both quick on the counter, and both have very good end product. And they both seem to avoid injury as well. Like I think Inaki Williams had like a La Liga record of playing 8 straight full seasons without getting injured, which is especially in the modern game when you're playing every single week, 3 days, 4 days between games is absolutely exceptional. So yeah, there is good players on display, especially on towards the forward line. They have added this summer with them actually buying a player for which is very rare for Bilbao because obviously they try and keep within their academy, but they brought Laporte back to Bilbao this summer, and he's obviously a very experienced head. Won the Premier League at Man City, and is a really good defender on his day when he avoids injury and stuff like that as well. And then they've got Sanchez as well, who I think is a really good creative playmaking prospect. Like there's a lot of potential to come from him. Like he's still only young, but I think there's a lot of that there is a lot of potential there, and I can see him being linked with like really established clubs in the near future, as well. So in terms of their attacking ability, I think the one of the strongest teams will play in these group of fixtures for sure. But like you said before, Ian, I think the that our defense is really strong, and we've only conceded to like Barcelona, Arsenal, and Liverpool this season. So we've managed to keep the ball out against teams that aren't like elite, if you will. So I have confidence in with defence to be able to handle it, and then obviously the midfield battle. I have full confidence in we're being able to win that as well against Bilbao. And then I believe, although their defence has experience, it's slow. Like Man United took real advantage of that last season. So I think with Anthony Gordon on, with Anthony Alanga on, Murphy maybe, it depends who he goes with on the day. I really think we can get a couple of goals and hopefully a win there as well. So I think there's a great deal of potential from that from this game. Although they are a good side, but I think that there is gaping holes in that defense, which I think we can take advantage of.
Mhm. Yeah, and that's a very comprehensive analysis, I think. Um, I thought before, at least when the draw was made, I was kind of worried about their defense because, as you've mentioned, they've brought back Laporte. They have Vivian at center back and Unai Simon in goal, which all three of them are full-fledged Spanish internationals. So gotta that's gotta mean something. But you're right, they are pretty slow. So against our attack, that's probably something we could exploit. I'm just very happy this is a home game for us because, as you've mentioned, our fans resemble their fans quite a lot in how proud we are of our city, how proud we are of our football club. So I think that that's just a big advantage for us that we have the home support in that game. And yeah, in that run against them, Benfica and Union, we should probably pick up a lot of points if we do wish to go far in this competition. These are the games we have to look to win.
Yeah, for sure.
So yeah, I agree with everything you've said about them. I suggest then we go one game week back and talk about Benfica, who have actually had a really interesting start to this season. They have already sacked their manager after a pretty calamitous first opening day in this Champions League season, losing or actually throwing away a 2-0 lead against Karabakh. So, I mean, if you're a Benfica manager and you do those sorts of things, they don't really have had the most convincing start in the Portuguese competition as well. And they've brought in Jose Mourinho. Now,
Yeah,
yeah, that's going to be, for one, I'm loving the fact that he's going to be coaching at St. James's Park because I really like Mourinho. But the whole saga where Benfica had to play Fenerbahce, who still had Mourinho as their coach, to qualify for the Champions League. Mourinho then in the press conference said, Benfica have a Turkish winger called Aktürkoğlu. We need to sign him and then we will beat Benfica. They don't sign him. Benfica beat them. Fenerbahce sack Jose Mourinho and then still sign this Aktürkoğlu guy. And then Benfica hire Jose Mourinho. That's absolutely fantastic. That's just pure and utter Mourinho drama. As for
yeah,
this Benfica team, they have more talent than they are showing at this moment in time. I believe their midfield is really, really strong. They have brought in a guy from Brazil who is called Rios, I believe. He's a really exciting prospect. Balero is a really good midfielder. They also have pretty dynamic wingbacks. But if we're honest with ourselves, there's no excuse to not get 3 points against Benfica for us at this moment in time. Because I also believe they have gotten considerably weaker over the summer, losing the likes of Kökçü, Carreras. So they're still finding their feet. I wouldn't be happy with anything else than 3 points from this game. I don't know how you feel about that.
Yeah, I feel quite the same, and Mourinho has a terrible record at St James's Park. He hasn't won when people were there. The only time he did win was when we had the worst manager in our lifetime, basically, in Steve Bruce. And then obviously the COVID restrictions kept people from the ground. But other than that, Mourinho's record at St James's is quite terrible. Um, so yeah, it's what I'm looking forward to. I didn't think I'd ever see Mourinho at St James's Park again, so I think it'll be a good occasion because the fans do get up a little bit more when it's Mourinho. I think it used to happen in years gone by. I think the best one would be when he brought his Chelsea side. They were unbeaten up until December. They were top of the league, and we managed to beat them that day, and that was an unbelievable day at St James's Park.
I can imagine.
Um, but yeah, it was unbelievable, and there is a little bit of history with Benfica as well. Obviously, we played them in the Europa League before we obviously got the takeover and the Champions League, being a bit more prominent. Our last European game was actually against Benfica at St James's Park, where we failed to overturn a 3-1 deficit. Um, and I was at that game in 2014, and it's crazy because they're coming back to St James's, and the fans again, like Bilbao's absolutely brilliant, really friendly. So it'll be good to see them in the groups again and stuff like that because they're quite friendly, a bit like the Geordies are up here, and similar to Bilbao as well. So it is what I'm looking forward to. But like you say, I think that they have lost a good deal of players in this summer, to where it is going to be difficult for them in a game like this. But obviously with Mourinho, it is going to be a defensive performance, and it's going to be hard to break them down. So the importance of getting that early goal is going to be really there. Um, and I think this is definitely one of the games where I've looked at and thought we need to get 3 points out of this. So, like I say, there's back to back Bilbao and Benfica. They're two games I think we should look at and be like, yeah, we can definitely pick up 6 points from those
Mm.
games, especially if we want to get through the next level of the competition for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. Just a little something else on Benfica. One of the players they have in their midfield is maybe someone who I would even like us to scout for potentially a long-term signing. I'm talking about Georgiev Sudakov. They're Ukrainian number 10. They have just brought him in this summer from Shakhtar Donetsk. And from what I have seen of him, he looks like an amazing talent. He's unbelievably technically gifted. He's really, really creative, which, I mean, I have been screaming the entire summer. We lack some creative sparks from the middle of the park.
Yeah.
So that would be someone I would keep an eye out for. Other than that, obviously Pavlidis scores a lot of goals everywhere he is. And they've brought in Dodi Lukebakio, a Belgian winger who was top scorer for Sevilla last season. So those are kind of their dangerous attackers. But as we've mentioned, it's in defense where we should probably have an advantage. Their left back, Dahl, I'm not really too convinced by him. Neither am I about the right back, Ba. The center backs, Otamendi is still getting minutes for them. So yeah, I think that's where we should be able to get
Yeah.
at them.
He's 40 now. Like there is a real opportunity to get at them where they're going to be slow in transition and stuff like that. So like you say, it is a real opportunity for we to get something out of this one. I do like the goalkeeper though, Trubin.
Yeah.
He seems a good up and coming goalkeeper, especially given that we're probably going to be in the market for a goalkeeper the next couple of years. In terms of Newcastle looking to scout players, he probably one I'd be looking at a bit more in depth because like we were linked with up and coming goalkeepers in the summer, and he wasn't on the list. I think we're linked with João Garcia, who ended up going to Barcelona, and obviously James Trafford as well. But Trubin's probably one of them that I'll be looking at in a year or two's
Mhm.
time, and it'll be interesting to see how he does as and when the game comes, and then obviously hopefully scouting him in a couple of years' time if he progresses.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. He's an exciting prospect. I don't know if he would fit the way Eddie Howe wants to use his goalkeepers because I think he's a little lackluster when it comes to cross claiming, which is one of Pope's absolute elite abilities. Um, but apart from that, he looks absolutely fantastic. His shot stopping looks on point. So yeah, I agree. We should definitely have a look at him. In match week 5, however, we are traveling to France to face off against Marseille. Now, this is one of the more interesting opponents in our group, shall we say?
Yeah.
Because I don't think there are many more divisive teams out there than Marseille. Their trainer, we know from the Premier League, Roberto Da Cervi, is already uh, an interesting character, shall we say? But if we then have a look at their playing squad, the their probably probable best player has to be Mason Greenwood, which is a player who brings his own baggage with him, especially in England. But Aubameyang has returned this summer. They have brought in Matt O'Reilly from Brighton. They have brought in a lot of players. Uh, George Weah's son, Timothy Weah, is now back in France playing for them, and he was actually really impressive against Real Madrid. And they have brought in Pavard as well in defense, along with Aguirre from West Ham and Facundo Medina, who has some Champions League experience. So I think they're actually one of the strongest sides we will be facing in the league phase. And we're playing in France, in their stadium. So their fans will be absolutely up for that one as well. Their fans are pretty crazy as well. So I think this is going to be an absolutely brilliant game. I really hope so because these are two teams who like to play attacking football as well. Yeah, I'm really excited to see this one, but I find it really hard to call.
Yeah, it is one of them games where I seen it on the champion like when the draw happened, I was like, ugh. Like because I wanted to do a European away day. I've always wanted to, and Marseille was at the bottom of the list. The reason for that though is because I think there's going to be sadly a lot of trouble. We've already seen it from Marseille fans this season, where they've had punch ups and stuff in their first Champions League game at home. So it is a little bit of a worry. And then obviously you've got the players which are really like the seem to obviously cause problems, and former Man United strikers as well seem to cause problems so far in this Champions League group. So it's um it's one of them where Mason Greenwood for me probably shouldn't be playing football at all, but that's a different podcast altogether and a different kind of thing. Um, but in terms of Marseille, like you say, they seem to be like the bad lads kind of group where it's
Yeah.
just the players are a bit off and stuff like that. So we need to be kind of ready for that kind of
Mhm.
attitude as we play them at the Velodrome, which is going to be it's going to be a tough game. I'm just hoping the main thing is when fans do go over there, they don't get injured or anything like that. That's the
Yeah.
main thing for me because that's my main worry. Um, because to be honest, I just didn't want to go. The main reason for that is because I didn't want to be involved in any of the trouble, or anything which I think is going to be
Mhm.
there. I hope I'm wrong. I really do. But the last time we were in Marseille was 2004 for the semi-final where Drogba knocked out the competition,
Mhm.
and yeah, it's just like it's just one of them where I'm a bit like some of the Turkish clubs where you're a bit like cautious of how it's going to
Yeah.
be off the field. But like you say, there's a good side there, and it's an attacking side. So hopefully, from our perspective, we can counter and play fast football. Because as we showed against Barcelona with the goal that was scored there, we can do that. And I think even though the Barcelona game ended up in defeat, I think there's a lot of lessons that's been learned there from the midfield. Because the one positive I can take from it is I know we're not going to play as good of a midfield as that this season. So there's plenty to take from that, and obviously press ahead. But it is going to be hard, like you say. But I think it's got a chance to be one of those famous Champions League nights. It's for Newcastle heading back to St James's, hopefully with 3 points. But yeah, it's going to be a difficult one for sure.
Absolutely, I agree. I think you've touched on it pretty well there with the Marseille fans and the situation around the stadium and before and after the game. I do think I'd be remiss to mention this as well, but Newcastle have warned the supporters who will travel to Belgium as well to avoid the dark alleys, shall we say, around the stadium, because Brussels can be a weird place at night as well. So I think it's good to mention this. Just take care of yourself. It's fantastic that Geordies are there to support us, but you have to think of yourself in the first place. So just be careful. Apart from that, though, if we are focusing on the footballing matter of things, if we were to go ahead quickly in this game against Marseille, I think we could see a pretty comfortable victory because, as you've said, this is a really weird dressing room with a bunch of very big characters. Over the summer, they had a bust up there as well, which actually turned into a fight and was the eventual reason that players like Adrien Rabiot eventually had to leave to AC Milan, despite him being one of their best players and most important players last season. So it still isn't really working there like it is, for example, in our dressing room where we know that all of our players get on really well. We know who the leadership figures are in this dressing room, who keeps everyone into line. There's no annoying personalities in our dressing room, and I think that's something. I think the importance of that cannot be underestimated. I suggest we move on to game week 6, which will be our visit to Germany. And I've heard you have already booked that particular flight. So I suggest we go straight over to you for that one.
This was the one out of the four that I chose to go to. I think Leverkusen was one of them where I was thinking big club. Obviously won the German league a couple of years back under Alonso. But there seemed to be a club that's going through a bit of a weird time at the moment. They've lost a lot of players this summer. They've went through a couple of managers. So a couple of players that they've lost is Florian Wirtz to Liverpool, Hinkeby to Arsenal, Frimpong to Liverpool, a deal. He also left.
Jonathan Tah to Bayern Munich.
Yeah,
Kaka to the scum.
yeah, Cosinone to Atalanta, and then obviously
Exactly. Yeah.
Xhaka to the Arseholes down the A19. So yeah, they have lost quite a few players, but they're all going through a bit of a transition. They've signed a couple of players this summer as well. But the main problem I think we'll have with them, to be honest, is Patrick Schick, who's scored quite a few goals over the past few years. Scored 21 goals last season in the Bundesliga, and obviously, like you see German strikers. Sesko went to Man United for like 70 million. Obviously we signed Walter Maeda as well. And Schick outscored both of those strikers in the Bundesliga last season, and you see how much they went for. There is a lot of value in the Bundesliga.
Mhm.
Ezequiel Palacios as well, who's a really good midfielder. Um, just as a bit of a secret, he's usually one of the go-to players on Football Manager in terms of a midfielder. He's always got a low release clause, and he's always solid in the middle as well. So he's one I know very well from the Football Manager saves. So based off that, he's probably going to have a worldie against her. But there is a, a couple of decent players within their team. Another one as well is Edmund Tapsoba. He was one we're very briefly linked with in the summer.
Mhm.
And he's a very technical ball playing centre back, and really it is really dynamic in terms of the way he can change a game, in terms of the way he can control a game from deep as well. So I'm expecting it to be a tough test. And in terms of centre backs that we've came up against and the ones that we've spoken about, this one's probably the highest in class, up there with like yeah, the centre backs at Barcelona as well. So there is a lot of talent in this team. But to be honest, I think with the amount of problems that they've had, like obviously having Ten Hag and losing Ten Hag within the space of what 2, 3 weeks, crazy stuff. And then obviously from there they've had a lot of outgoings as well. So I think there is an opportunity for her to take advantage of the kind of the turmoil that's going on there. And obviously the new manager coming in, there is a lot for him to go through. They're currently sixth in the Bundesliga, coming off a 2-1 win at St. Pauli, which as it happens is another stadium I'm going to in the next couple of weeks.
Hey.
Little tour of Germany. I seem to be
Yeah.
doing it. So
Sounds
um,
like fun.
yeah, they've got a trip planned to Hamburg, so I'm taking in the stadiums while I'm there, I think. But
As you should. Fantastic idea.
yeah, but yeah, I think I think there's a lot of potential in getting the win here. Although I've mentioned Palacios as a midfield threat, I think we can win the midfield battle here.
Hmm.
Obviously we've got three players in Tonali, Joel, and Bruno that have played together now for 2 years and are looking stronger and stuff like that. So I think there's a real potential we can win the midfield battle, and as well as that, I think although by Leverkusen are a really good side, especially at home, in the past couple of years, there is a although these are a really good side and it will be a tough game, I think there's a real opportunity there for we're going, if not get a point, get three for
Hmm.
sure.
Yeah, yeah. I think I agree with everything you've said there, especially when it comes to that midfield battle. Losing the likes of Granit Xhaka and Florian Wirtz, they've kind of lost all of their legs in the middle of the park. Palacios is kind of a little lightweight. But he's very, very technical. You're right. He's an incredible player, but he is a little lightweight. So I think the only real physicality they have in there is Robert Andrich, who is maybe even slower than Dan Burn. Maybe. So that's something to look out for when it comes to us. If I do want to mention one other player who I will be on the lookout for when we face them, it has to be Malik Tillman. He is one they bought kind of as a Florian Wirtz replacement from PSV over the summer, and he is absolutely mustard. He's really, really good. He's an American number 10. He came through the Byron Youth Academy, so a lot of pedigree already there. But he
Yeah.
left the Eredivisie last season as the very best player in the Netherlands. I really do believe that. So he is very much someone to look out for. But as we've said, they've lost so many players. So many amazing players have gone, and it does take a while to settle into a new squad. Their new manager is now Casper Hjolmand after Erik ten Hag's fiasco. So yeah, there is a lot of stuff for us to believe in, but this game is still quite some way apart. I think it's on the 12th of December or something like that.
Yeah,
So
it's the same week as the derby, so it's
exact.
quite a
Oh,
big. So yeah,
okay, all right.
it's quite a week for sure.
Yeah, that's going to be an exciting one for sure. But yeah, my point I'm trying to make here is that we don't really know what Leverkusen is going to look like come December because they only have just got their new man in. But I do still believe when we have a look at the personnel, when we have a look at the start of this season, we should be able to get something from that game. I agree. All right, then our second to last opponent is PSV Eindhoven. As I am from Belgium, the Eredivisie kind of closely resembles the Belgian Pro League when it comes
Yeah.
to the level and the kind of grassroots feel that the league has to it. So I would call myself a little bit of an expert on the Eredivisie as well. And when it comes to PSV, they have had a mass exodus of talent this summer as well. Their left winger Noah Lang went to Napoli. Their striker Luc de Jong went to Porto. Their right winger Bakayoko went to Leipzig. Tillman to Leverkusen. At centre back Oliver Boscagli went to Brighton. Who I mean, there's probably not a lot of Premier League fans who know an awful lot about him because he hasn't played a lot of minutes, but he was absolutely crucial to the way PSV build up from the back. He's really, really comfortable with the ball at his feet. And they haven't, I mean, they've brought in some players to replace that, obviously. But on the one hand, they have had the worst luck with those players. They brought in Alassane Plea from Gladbach in at striker, who is injured for 6 months. They brought in Ruben van Bommel, son of Mark van Bommel, to play on the left wing. He's injured for the entire season. They brought in Jarek Gaziarowski at center back, who, I mean, he's looked really bright at the start of this season, but apparently, if we are led to believe the players from PSV themselves, him and the other center back can't communicate between themselves because they simply don't understand each other. So that's a problem as well. And the one big advantage we have, the one thing PSV cannot deal with, and is exactly the reason why Union ran over them, is the physical aspect of the game. Every single Dutch team is struggling with that at this moment in time. It's the topic of every single podcast in about Dutch football. And this is going to show yet again against us, I believe, because we are one of the most physical sides in Europe, playing against one of the, I mean, I don't want to say physically depleted squad, but they don't really have anyone who can contest a duel, who wants to run for 90 minutes straight. They are very, very good when it comes to the footballing side of things. They are a beautiful side to watch when they are on top, but I don't think they will spend a minute on top against us. I genuinely believe this is the easiest fixture we have drawn.
I mean, I feel a hell of a lot more confident about this fixture now since hearing that. So, yeah, if there's one thing I could say about Newcastle is we're a very physically dominating side when we're in full flow. And I think obviously you look at midfield, Tonali physical, Bruno physical, Joe Linton very physical. So there is a lot of potential there to really kick on. And this is one of the games I'm really confident about, and more so from following what you've just said. So I think yeah, there's not much more for me to add on the basis of this one. They have lost a lot of players, and then obviously bringing in the players that they have brought in, they've been a bit unjust with. So I think there's a real potential to get 3 points here for sure.
Yeah, and there's also a lot of a high chance that they will come to us without a recognized number nine. At this moment in time, they have three strikers on their books, but none of them is fit, and all three of them seem like they will struggle throughout the entire season. As I've said before, Plea suffered a really, really long injury, so that's unfortunate. Ricardo Pepi, who is an American striker, is actually a really clinical striker, but he suffers from water in his knees, so he's been out for the entirety of last season and struggling to find fitness again this year. And then they brought back Myron Boadou, who is a striker who's kind of only succeeded in the Netherlands, but he's back there now, so that should be a positive. But he struggled for fitness at the start of the season as well. So there is a
Mm.
high chance that we will face a side without a recognizable number nine. And we
Yeah,
are
a
at
lot of
home as
confidence
well.
to take from that for sure.
I agree. So that does take us to the last game, which is in January, where we travel back to France, this time to face Paris Saint-Germain. What are your thoughts, Kyle?
Yeah, a lot of good memories when I think of PSG. To be honest, it's one of them where I think obviously of the 4-1 at St James's Park a couple of years back, which was one of the best nights I've seen as a Newcastle fan, for sure. And then, but also the bad feeling I had at Paris the last time with the Tino handball. I felt numb to my core when that happened because I just thought the amount of minutes that got added on. It was just like we are not allowed to pick up a win here, and I thought we deserved to win that night, but they gave a ludicrous amount of added time, and then they gave an unjust penalty, and it was just like, what can you do? Obviously, since then though, they've became Champions League winners, and they've become one of the best teams in the world, and they've added a lot of quality players to their squad since then. Obviously the Georgian lad on the wing, Kvaratskhelia.
Yeah,
Um,
yes.
yeah, he's a brilliant winger, and then obviously you've got on
Absolutely.
the other side Dembele, who's just literally won the Ballon d'Or. So there is a lot of attacking threat
Hmm.
with this side, and they probably have improved, even though they've lost like Kylian Mbappe in recent years. I think they've managed to improve the entire squad. You look at the players that they've improved this summer. They've brought the goalkeeper in from Lille. He seems to be a real class act.
Hmm.
Hakimi's probably the best right back in the world. Is it Zabriani they brought in from Bournemouth
Zabarni, yeah, yeah.
at centre back? He played at St James's in the 4-1
Hmm.
last year alongside Hudson, and he was exceptional. So there's a lot of fantastic talent
I agree.
in this PSG side, and they've improved a hell of a lot since we played them a couple of years
Hmm.
ago, I think. That doesn't mean they're not beatable though, because I think obviously Chelsea beating them in the Club World Cup final, and then Tottenham going 2-0 up against them in the UEFA Super Cup final as well. So I think there is a lot of opportunity there for us to counter attack and really hit them hard. Like it's definitely the toughest game on our list,
Hmm.
in terms of it being like a daunting kind of thing. But I think it's one of them where we can really have a go and maybe try and get something. I don't think we will, because it is the Champions League champions at the end of the day. They are literally the cream of the crop, if you will,
Hmm.
in terms of the ability that they've got going forward. Um, and the types of players that they do have, especially in the midfield, like Vitinha, as Odegaard's just literally shown last weekend, that type of player with that creative ability to unpick teams seems to be a bit of an issue for us to deal with. So it is going to be quite a difficult game.
Hmm.
But the one thing from me is I would like to go into this game without worrying where we are on the table. So if we're in the top 24 and we're guaranteed at least a playoff, then we can go into this game and not worry too much about it. That's the main thing from me. But if we're not in the top 24 and we're kind of needing to go there and win, that's where it's going to be difficult. So
Hmm.
hopefully we'll do a job against Benfica, against PSV, against Union, against these teams, and build up with points. So when it comes to it, we are either in the top eight and comfortable, or we're in the top 24 and comfortable. That's kind of what I'm hoping for here,
Hmm.
mainly.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. I think you're bang on about the fact that where we are in the table will have a massive effect on this game because this is the last game of that league or the mini league season of the Champions League. If we have a look at last season's Champions League, I'll even bring it up right here in front of me so I don't make a mistake. It took you 11 points to qualify for the next round via the playoffs, and it took Aston Villa 16 points to get through automatically via the first eight. But I don't think this season it's going to take as many points to qualify because last year that was the first edition. There were no draws at all. There were literally nearly zero draws in last season's Champions League, so that skewed the points total a lot. So I believe if we can get 9 points from Union, Benfica, and PSV, we should be fine for at least the playoffs, and that will take the pressure off of that game a lot. And I think I agree with you in the fact that if we can play that game without any pressure, we might even be able to get a result. The one thing I do really worry about, as you've alluded to a lot, they are fantastic. Paris Saint-Germain. They are absolutely
Yeah,
fantastic. Kvaratskhelia, Dembele, I think Doué is belongs in that list as well of absolutely
yeah, for sure.
cream of the crop, and Joao Neves in midfield. This is maybe a recommendation for anyone at home listening to this. But if and when this podcast has finished, go to YouTube and watch the highlights of Toulouse facing off against Paris Saint-Germain from this season. I believe it was 6-3 for Paris Saint-Germain, but Joao Neves scores from the number 6 position the very best hat trick you will ever see in your life and you will ever see after this. I promise you that. I guarantee you that. It's magnificent. So the natural talent that this squad possesses, the way that Luis Enrique has made them tick, has made them work because when it came to PSG, it never has been for a lack of talent, but more so for a lack of cohesion, a lack of structure. That isn't the case anymore. Luis Enrique is a really, really talented manager. I hope we don't have to get anything from this game anymore when we do have to play it. I completely agree.
Yeah, it is a hard one for sure, but we have beat a Luis Enrique side before, so who's to say it can't happen again? But it is a tall ask. If we're going into that needing to pick up a point or needing to win,
Mm-hmm.
it's going to be it's a very tall ask to go to the Champions League champions and get something from it. Although we did last time, we got 4 points off PSG in the last group that we're in,
Mm-hmm.
so. There is an opportunity there for it to maybe be their bulky team or something like that, but they're an exceptional team, and I do respect the level of quality that they do have throughout their squad, and I think they've went unbeaten domestically now for well, they went unbeaten last season and they've started unbeaten this season as well. So yeah, it's going to be they're a team not used to losing, put it that way.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a very tall ask, but. I know the lads won't shy away from the challenge. It's obviously something that they'll relish. So hopefully from there we can get something, but hopefully not needing to get something from it.
Mm-hmm. All right. So those are the 7 fixtures. If I were to ask you, Union, Benfica, Bilbao, Leverkusen, PSV, Marseille, Paris Saint-Germain, how many points do you think we gather in those fixtures?
I think looking at the main thing you mentioned before, which I totally get, is obviously the home games that we've got left. I think at least 7 points bare minimum. If not, it's probably nine we should be looking at
Mm-hmm.
really, from those games alone. And then obviously if you can pick up um maybe 3 or 4 points between Leverkusen, Marseille, and PSG away, there is a real potential there to
Mm-hmm.
to get something to get out of the group. So I'm hoping, from the look of it, I think we can get between 9 and 13 points, I'd say, from those games, and I think that'll be enough to see we're through to at least the playoff round, and then
Mm-hmm.
we can go from there. So I think there is a real potential there, but obviously I think the home games, especially that run of Bilbao, and Benfica at home, them being the games where we seem to go on a bit of a run, and then obviously if we can pick up points in Marseille as well, that would be great in Leverkusen. But as long as it doesn't go down to the final game, as I mentioned before, that would be the important thing for me. But I think looking at the fixtures and looking at what we've got and who we're up against, I think there's a real opportunity there for us to get through the next round and go a bit further than we did last time.
Mm-hmm. Genuinely, I'm saying at the very minimum, I believe we can get 14 points. I believe 12 points out of wins from against Union, Bilbao, Benfica, and PSV should be absolutely doable. Marseille, I'm just calling a draw for now because I can see us losing points there. And to be kind, I'm giving a draw to Leverkusen as well, but I do believe we should be able to get all 3 points in that game as well. So I really do believe 14 points could be the minimum we're looking at here. And that's not even calculating a result in against Paris Saint-Germain. And afterwards, we are in the knockouts, and then it does not matter anymore where we did finish in the league table because I don't know what I mean. I don't care what club you are. Drawing Newcastle United in a head-to-head fixture where it's home and away, so you have to travel to St James's for one of those fixtures. That's a horrific draw for any club. Any club is going to hate that draw. So yeah, it's really exciting for us. Look at what we did to Arsenal last season over a two-legged tie. I
Mm.
genuinely believe we can beat anyone. And if we're looking then for maybe a quarter final, I think that could be a massive, massive win for us. And a massive show of intent to the rest of the world that we are actually looking to compete.
Yeah, for sure. I totally agree. Quarter final and doing kind of what Villa did last year in
Mm-hmm.
taking the champions who went on to win it to the very limit,
Yeah.
is kind of what we're looking for. Maybe we can go maybe a step or two further than Villa, who knows? But I think if we can get through this group, and then see what we get. Because, like you say, I do fancy working against anybody over two legs,
Mhm.
especially getting them back at St James's Park, and obviously having to face the crowd that's there. So yeah, I think there's a lot to be excited about this season for sure.
Yeah, completely agree. And the one thing I would like to add to that as well is historically, Champions Leagues have always been won by a great defense. Always. Think
Absolutely.
of Thomas Tuchel's Chelsea side. Think of who am I forgetting here? Atletico always reaching the final. Great defenses do very well, especially in tournament systems. In a league phase, that
Yeah.
kind of cancels out with great attacks as well. But in knockouts based football, a great defense is key to getting far, and we absolutely have that.
Always, yeah, absolutely. I mean, they didn't win it, but remember Juventus's team that made the final, and obviously they got beat
Mhm.
off Real Madrid in the final. But Chiellini,
Exactly.
and players like that are like the key to getting you to them tournaments and
Inter Milan,
getting
who have
far.
reached two
Yeah,
finals now.
yeah, exactly. So, and even when they won it, they had a lot of good defenders. Obviously,
Hmm.
Zanetti as a
Yeah,
defensive midfielder
yeah.
slash right back, a lot of good
Hmm.
players there. So you're completely right. It does lock in on needing a good defense and seeing out the
Yeah,
games, especially when it gets into a tough situation, which it's a Champions League. You're going to run into it at some point.
exactly. Yeah. Yeah, I think Jose Mourinho might even be the best example of that because he won Porto the Champions League by simply ignoring every other team who was playing two people in midfield and dropping one number six in behind of them because he was actually not necessarily invented that but reintroduced that, and the fact that
Yeah,
no other team was doing that meant Porto had the single best defense in the competition and they won the whole damn thing.
yeah, they did.
Fantastic. So a lot of stuff for us to look forward to in this season's Champions League. Kyle, is there something you would like to add to this episode as well?
I don't think so. I think that's everything from me. It's been good to be on, and looking forward to being on to the next ones as well in the future. So yeah, happy to shoot the breeze for however long it's been, but it's flew by. So thanks very much again.
Yeah, thank you as well. It was a real pleasure. Thank you for taking the time. And I think we're going to hear a lot of you and all of the other voices in Magpie 24/7 over the coming weeks, over the next episodes. For now, I would like to thank you guys a lot for listening. If you did listen to this on Spotify, make sure to leave us a 5-star review. If you listen to this on YouTube, please like, subscribe to the channel. Head over to our social media pages, Magpie 24/7 on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, Instagram. You know the drill. And I would like to see you in the next episode. Have a good one.